those regrets have allowed me to learn more about myself. This gives me now a better chance of making decisions that are going to lead to less regret. You can start to look at those decisions from a bit more of an objective viewpoint because you have maybe gone through those regrets. But you can't live your life afraid of regrets because no matter what you do, whether you do nothing or you do something, you're going to have regrets either way. So you might as well do some shit and at least, you can have a pretty cool life.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Mind Muscle Connection. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Tyler Weeb. Today we are going to talk about regret. And when I sent you that idea, it was just instantly, knowingly the most important thing I could think of at the time to talk about. You and I sometimes just sift back and forth. What's the most pertinent, relevant thing? But this is something that I know we haven't touched in any way, and there is some profundity and darkness to this. And I'll tell you why this came to me just like a bolt of lightning. So there's a new Netflix series called Song Exploder, and I won't tell you the whole backstory, but it's worthwhile. Go watch it if you like music at all. Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, writes the song "Hurt" back in the early '90s. Apologized for it, almost didn't put it on the album, said this song is going to go nowhere, and then it becomes probably his biggest hit ever, so much so that even Johnny Cash covered it before he died. And I want to juxtapose these two things because I sat there for 30 minutes and watched the creation of this, every little tonal change and nuance, everything that Reznor was thinking. And he was this frenetic, out of control, rock star who felt like he didn't belong, and his outlet was music. And so there was just so much angst in his music, and that teenage world that, we sometimes feel so confounding in terms of intensity. And so this was his way of just kind of getting that out. And when you listen to the words, like the chorus, "You can have it all, my empire of dirt. I will let you down. I will make you hurt." Like, this is a guy who is looking forward to regret that he has not yet even lived. You don't even come close to me in a relationship because I am such a bad, awful person that you're going to regret it. I will only bring you hurt. And that's the way we sometimes feel. We think of the things that aren't going to happen to us that we want, or the bad things that will happen to us, and we start regretting things without even having lived that. So that was an amazing thing to watch because now he's in his 50s with a life well lived, looking back at that. Then you turn and watch Johnny Cash at almost 80 years old with his deep, resonant, yet shaky, feeble voice, who decides this is going to be the last song I record in the history of my life. And you hear him sing that song. And now it's a guy that we know certainly lived a lot of regret. And just that brought on this extra depth. And I just wept, like seeing those two things back to back, the videos, because at the core of it all, Tyler, I think that's what we dread the most. What if our one shot of life doesn't go the way we want? What if we have regrets? What if we get to that last final song we sing and that's all we see is that pain, or as Reznor said, the stain of time that can't cover up that pain and regret. And so, man, I just had to kind of unload this on you today because that was just a powerful insight and moment for me.
Man, you haven't been dwelling on this at all in the last 48 hours. I think one thing kind of stuck out with me and kind of, as you were going through the story, and I think it's something that you said to me once where, you try and live every day where, if you were on your deathbed, you could look back and go, you know what, I did it, and have no regrets in a sense. I'd be curious to see if it would be possible to actually truly reach the end and have zero regrets. But, I think, still being able to have and try to live with that mindset is pretty paramount to this because we have to truly understand what is going to make us the happiest? What is going to give us no regrets? Can we think each day like that? And every time we make a decision, can you make it with the background of that question, looming over you? Maybe looming is not the right word there,
Well,
but
I
it
think I
does
think it
kind of
is.
loom, right? Because you can be torn in so many directions because yeah, you do get into, well, the what if and the this and that and the life trajectory and where is this going to take me, and what decision, what are the consequences, the ripples of that decision. So yeah, it's a very hard position to be in because I think, having regrets and learning from those choices is how we grow and learn, and we continue to evolve. And so they're almost a necessity of life. But at the same time, you can't regret the regrets. You have to be okay with it almost in a sense because you made that choice. Like no one made that choice for you. You did it. And so you have to be okay with that, even if it maybe doesn't turn out, the way it is. And that's certainly easier said than done. I'm not saying that, oh, that's just, magically the answer. But, again, we can't have this extreme where we take ourselves into complete mourning and regret and don't allow ourselves to take those next steps, grow from it, learn from it, and continue to move on. It's okay to go to that extreme. I think there is a time, for mourning and going, man, yeah, that was a bad choice. And that's okay to have that. But it has to then have that opposite effect of, okay, how am I going to move on from this?
Well, like always, you skipped right to the answer and solved the whole thing. But
Telling you, Tyler for
so
president,
so
baby.
first of all, you're right. Like this is a deep-seated schema in me. One of my most profound, enduring thoughts that I had ever since I was a child. Like, do more, do more, do more. Like, what if you miss out? What if you can't do it all in your life, and then you will have those regrets? Like, I have felt that deeply. It's part of what has motivated me to do as much as I've done. But as I've gotten older, I've also settled into that cadence of, you're right, it is enough, and I am living an amazing life. And when there are regrets, I mean, first of all, psychologically, research shows that we feel more regret, not over what we've done that's a mistake, but regret over what we think we might not have gotten out of life. So FOMO, that's a true fact. And that leads to what you said, which is rumination. Why not? Why not? Why didn't I do that? Why aren't I doing more? What if this doesn't happen for me? What if I'm not enough? What if I do have regrets? That just creates that catastrophic rumination. And you are exactly right. I think it's important to have the balance point where that is some kind of motive in you that propels you toward not having as many regrets, like into action, into doing things. But at some point, you have to realize that is also the trap that destroys you. I mean, famously how poachers kill monkeys, right? Like you put something they want through a board where their hand can fit in, but once they grasp the thing, their fist can't come back out. Once that primate has what it wants, it will not let go. It will sit there until the poacher just comes and gets it. And we don't let go of those regrets. We don't let go and move on. And so I just think there's that little voice that has to be there to push us ambitiously into what we want. But then, as you said, just live your life, sit back, reflect, and understand you still have time and space.
Yeah, and I think it stops you, I think it kind of boxes you into like a black and white thinking as well. Like, for an example, my mom, we have a kid now, and there's been a couple of times where she's like, oh, I just, I have so many regrets, when I raised you guys. I was like, don't, like, you did what you thought was best. Like, you can't regret this 30, 40 years from now, when you see your own kids, because I'm a parent because of how you raised me and what I learned and things like that. And so I kind of just see this where it's like, in a sense, and maybe I am putting some words, in her mouth, but she's, maybe almost looking at our parenting style as the right way of parenting, where hers was the bad way, and it's not the case. And so that is such a running theme in our podcast is, not having this black and white thinking, and just how so many of these things can box us into that without us even realizing it in so many different parts of our lives. And so, yeah, just you're not letting that vicious circle, that rumination take over. Because guess what? You can't go back and change it. But guess what? You can change the future by your actions at this point. And yes, it might come with future regrets. But it's easy, again, probably easier said than done sometimes, but you can't live your life afraid of regrets, because I think no matter what you do, whether you do nothing or you do something, you're gonna have regrets either way. So you might as well do some shit, and at least you can have a pretty cool life.
Well, forgiveness, self-compassion is what any good therapist would tell. Because that what you just said about parenting is like universal. That is so universal. So we talked about, especially with Resner and Cash, like the future and the past, like looking forward and fearing what you may not do, and then looking back and regretting what you did or did not. But in the present, I think, is where we can pull in our fitness community. And I was just having a conversation with two of my coaches and dear friends, both who have had some injuries where it's like, holy shit, yesterday I could do anything. I could literally physically do anything. And now I have permanent, lifelong limitations. And I mean, you see this, like it's just psychologically falling off a cliff, and the despondency, and it's almost instant deep depression. And I've been able to have these conversations, which is like, okay, I've been there. My physical peak was here. Now I'm on the downside. And what you do is realize in the present, I'm still doing what I love. I'm still fighting and enjoying it and loving the things I can. Sometimes it's not with the most reckless abandonment that I had in my 20s or 30s, but I'm still doing it, and I'm still doing it well, and it's still part of my life. And even if I had to set something aside, I can look back and say that 10, 20, 30 years, like that was an amazing part of my life. It made me who I am in this season. And so, coming back to the present, I think it is critical to not be steeped in regret forever.
And I mean, okay, this is my experience, is those regrets have allowed me to learn more about myself. And I think that is a perfect recipe to, maybe it is an ignorant or arrogant saying, but I feel like it would be a great backdrop to go, you know what, this gives me now a better chance of making less decisions that are going to lead to less regret, if that makes any sense. Right. So, I think the more, you are able to kind of learn about yourself, what direction you want to go, you can start to look at those decisions from a bit more of a hopefully objective viewpoint, because you have maybe gone through those regrets, you've gone through those emotional decisions, you kind of then had that time and that opportunity to look back, see how that came about. And it can almost be a bit of a signal warning, right? Next time you find yourself in a situation, you look for those red flags, you look for those things that pop up, and do they vibe with you? Do they sit with who you are at that time in place?
And it is honestly the crux of the worst parts of social media today, because at the heart of resentment or regret of your own actions or inactions is comparison, right? Like if you weren't comparing it to something else, you would not know what is, quote, right or wrong. And so everything is accelerated. We're seeing everybody's best foot, fake foot forward in social media. And that just piles on even more regret. Well, I'm not doing that. I don't look like that. I don't have that. I don't feel that way every day. And bam, regret gets magnified to the point of all kinds of teen self-harm and depression, anxiety. I mean, you're seeing those just go through the roof, as if they weren't already the highest in the world in Western culture, US particularly. Uh, there is no off ramp to this, except for you to disengage and pull yourself back into the kind of self reflection you're describing and say, wait a second, I'm doing this for me. This is my life. What do I want? What makes me happy? Maybe I need to ignore a lot of this and focus on one good thing at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I remember when when IG, first started taking off. I think I was in university, and this is when fitness was really starting to take off. And I definitely went through that pretty hardcore for a few years on Instagram, scrolling, through these just jacked, lean guys, right? Like, your models, and just like having this just like, fuck, why don't I look like that? And it did eventually get to the point where like just one day I was doing this and I was like, shit, like I need to unfollow this. Like this is not good. And this is when Instagram was just first starting. Like it's not even close to what it is now. So I can't even imagine what it's like now, because I keep my following, quite tight of on my social media, because I know what that can do. And I think I'm in a place in my life where I don't think it is much of an issue anymore, because I'm a lot more behind the scenes now, and yeah, it's definitely not what it looks like, and so I think that's a much easier for me. But I can only imagine, what it's like for 16, 17, 18-year olds right now, growing up in this and having to, go through this and try to navigate it. And for when it was us, it was, man, we just posted about like our parties. Like that was essentially what we use social media for. Like, hey, I was partying this weekend. Look at these pictures. And now, yeah, it's become what it's become, and it's become this animal, and it's just eating everybody up. And so I think I resonate with that so much. Just being able to distance yourself, from that, and just not have that bleed into your eyes 24/7. Just that alone can help start to change your mindset. Like it's such a simple thing. Like so many people like, oh, have you heard of this person? Nope, no idea, but do not know who they are. I do not care who they are. If they do not contribute in an X amount of way to the industry, I got no use for them.
So you mentioned a thread, a theme that is often articulated by us in mind muscle connection, which is black and white thinking, being open minded. There's another big one, and this is like if you have watched every single episode of the mind muscle connection, which you of course Tyler been a part of, this would be like the final exam, and I'm going to give it to you. You're going to pass or fail based on this.
Awesome.
Are you ready?
Get ready to cut this out.
Edit. What is the opposite of regret? Take your time. Yes. I mean, close. Give me a synonym for happiness.
Can I go on Google and look up his cinnamon?
Happiness can be kind of fleeting. Like, oh, I'm happy. And then, oh, I'm
Contentment.
not. What?
Contentment.
Yes, that's it. You pass. There you go. You
There we go. I needed a little bit of help, call it a B. But you know what? B's get degrees, baby.
Phone a friend. You got it. No, I mean, happiness was exactly the right genre of category. But
yeah.
And we've talked about this a lot, because you don't get contentment from what you get. It is a self-generated modality of your mind. You must decide, I am enough. I have enough. I love enough. I am loved enough. Something inside me says I'm content. And nothing has to change in your life. You can literally look at everything. That's why people do gratitude journaling. You can look at what you have and say, holy fuck, like what a life I have, instead of looking forward to regret or looking back in regret. It just takes that exercise of self-will. And I'll give you another quote. I already quoted John Vervaeke like 2 or 3 times today in social media posts.
It must be that 22 hours.
Yes, but he says this is a great statement. Love is the negation of will. And I would even say that's the same as contentment, because if I love somebody, I don't have to have my will imposed on them. I can negate my will. Same thing in my life. The content, my life circumstances don't have to be perfect for me to still feel content. I can feel it looking back at the great things, looking forward to the things that I want to do, looking at the present, at what I am grateful for. And I can sit in my current life and lessen those feelings of regret.
Yeah, it's just like metabolism. It's a continuous thing. It's constantly moving. You're constantly adjusting. You're constantly paying attention. You're, constantly thankful for the food that you do have. It's kind of that same idea where yeah, you're going to have fluctuations in the day to day, but overall, you're going to have that contentment, that maintenance of your life. And, you know, we said it before, right? It's being content with the present, but, still working towards, that future, because we are such dynamic creatures that shouldn't and are not meant to be standing still and not moving forward with, whatever brings us that contentment.
Well, I am glad you passed the exam. You can stay as co-host. And everybody watching Mind Muscle Connection, you got homework now. You must go to Netflix, watch Song Exploder, the 9 Inch Nails segment, and then watch the Johnny Cash video singing the same song, Hurt. We'll see you guys next time in the Mind Muscle Connection.